This is the GeoSketch Tools video for the Texture Face tool. What we're interested in doing is redefining the texture on this face to eliminate the obscuring building from the texture. The Texture Face tool, the icon is currently dimmed because it is required that we select a face before we enable the tool. So I'll go to the Select tool and select the face that we want to retexture. The icon is no longer dimmed, and when I select the icon, it will automatically go to the aux view that is currently being used to texture that face, and it shows us the outline of the face as it maps into the aux view. Now there are two ways to operate from this point. We can either zoom out, in which case we can see the other aux views and potentially select them for the new texture. If we place the cursor in an aux view, down in the status window it shows the skew angle in degrees, which is the measure of the angle between the plane of this aux view and the plane of the face that we're retexturing. So it gives us an idea of how much skewing there will be when we project that onto the aux view. So as we work our way around, we see that the skew angle increases, and that can help to be the criteria for selecting a view. Once we double click on an aux view, then that aux view will be used to texture the face, and we can immediately see what it's going to look like on the face that we selected, and it also shows the mapping back to the aux view. So we can double click this view and we see there's still a little bit of an obscuring, and then if we click on this view we see that there is no obscuring. Now the other way to operate, if we zoom, align and zoom this view, we can also use the left and right arrows. But in this case it's important to note that when we use the left and right arrows, when we move to a different aux view, it will immediately be applied as a texture onto the face. So if I shift to the right, it has retextured that face. If I shift the opposite way, it has retextured that face, and we can continue to move around until we find a face where there is no obscuring. Now the other operation of the Texture Face tool is that we can refine the projection of the texture onto the face. So if we zoom in, if some of the corners don't match quite right, we can just grab the corner and move it to the desired location. We can do this for all four of the corners of this projection, and rotate around as needed to see the points. And once we have finished adjusting the points, we hit the Tab key. Again, the mnemonic is tabulating our edits, and now it has remapped that texture and moved the corners. So we probably would like to do the same operation to another face. So we use the Select tool and select this face, and in this case the current view is probably a good view for seeing that face, but because there's a little bit of error in the camera orientation matrix, we need to adjust the points. So with the same process, we just grab the corner points and move them to the desired location for mapping the texture, and then we can zoom down to the bottom, grab this point and grab this point over here, and hit the Tab key, and now that texture maps to the face better. Now an important thing to note about texturing these faces is once we have gone to the trouble to edit the mapping of the texture onto the face, we do not want to lose that if we retexture the building. So this is the reason for the difference between the retexturing and auto-texturing in the context menus. So for example, if we select this entire building and we select the texturing option to retexture all, it will retexture all of the faces except for the ones that we have edited, because it doesn't want to disturb the editing that we did to those faces. Now this is different from the auto texture all. If we select that face, and we actually don't need to select the whole thing, because if we do retexture all, it will select all the connected faces. So if you do texturing, and rather than picking retexture face or retexture all, we'll choose auto texture all. And in this case, it goes back and uses its original criteria for selecting the face or the aux view that is closest to being parallel to this face, and retextures using that. So if you don't want that to happen, be sure to use the retexture commands as opposed to the auto texture. And in case you have trouble remembering the difference, there's a little mini help here. If you click on this help, it explains the difference between the auto texture and the retexture. So that concludes the texture face command.